Chapter 301, Queen of Stars. Chapter 319, Star Luo Empassed, Little by Little. In the main hall, Pavilion Master Yeshi and Duke Yuming were conversing when a maid entered and bowed to the Duke. "Your Grace, the banquet is ready." Duke Yuming nodded and waved the maid away, then turned his attention back to Pavilion Master Yeshi. "Pavilion Master Ye, Your Highnesses, please proceed to the banquet." Yeshi cut in politely. Duke Yuming rose to lead the way. Pavilion Master Ye Shi, accompanied by Ling Yuan and Ghost Leopard, followed. Before long, they reached the banquet hall. On either side of the entrance, long tables were laden with delicacies, and maids stood along the walls. Guests took their seats according to rank and waited. The Duchess arrived first, followed by her two daughters, Juju Yun and Juju King. Once they were seated, one chair at the main table remained empty. Pavilion Master Yeshi's azure eyes turned to the doorway, curious to see who else had come from the Star Luo Empire. Soft footsteps sounded at the threshold. All eyes were drawn to the entrance. A woman stepped in wearing an ornate gown. Her features bore a resemblance to Duke Yuming, and each of her movements was composed and noble. "Greetings, Your Highness the Empress," the room chorused. Duke Yuming, the Duchess, Juju Yun, Juju King, and the others rose and bowed to the Star Luo Empress. Pavilion Master Yeshi narrowed her eyes, considered for a moment, then rose and inclined her head in return, showing respect. "I heard Pavilion Master Ye of Frost Snow Pavilion was visiting the Nether Duke's mansion," the Empress said softly. "I wish to call and see her. I hope I have not disturbed anyone." Her voice was gentle, but carried a regal weight. She raised a hand in a graceful gesture, and the guests remained standing. Then the Empress turned those phoenix-like eyes to Pavilion Master Ye Shi and met Yeshi's calm, blue gaze. For a moment, the two said nothing. It felt like the stillness before a storm. The hall fell quiet. At last, the Empress broke eye contact and smiled faintly. "I have heard of Pavilion Master Ye's great reputation for some time now. Seeing you in person, the rumors were a bit modest." Yeshi returned the smile and sat. When her peripheral vision caught sight of Ling Yuan and Ghost Leopard, a flicker of apprehension passed through the Empress's expression. "You flatter me, Your Highness," Yeshi replied lightly. "It is only exaggerated rumor." They both sat, their faces composed, though each watched the other intently. The banquet officially began. Duke Yuming ate with his head down, sneaking glances at Yeshi and the Empress. Juzu Yun and Juzu King watched the two women like hawks. Juju Qing's fingers clenched at times. From the way things stood, the real contest this evening would be between the Star Luo Empress and Pavilion Master Ye, and whoever gained the upper hand would have consequences for Juzu Qing. "I was thinking of visiting the Star Luo Imperial Palace tomorrow to consult the Xingluo Emperor on a few minor matters," Ye Shi said softly, a faint smile on her pale face. "Oh," the Empress replied. "May I ask what matters Pavilion Master Yi wishes to discuss with His Majesty? If it is not significant, I can answer on His Majesty's behalf." Her tone carried a hint of gravity now. Ye Shi's next words were deliberate. "Nothing of great importance. I only wish to open a branch of Frost Snow Pavilion somewhere in the Star Luo Empire." She watched the Empress's expression closely. "If a branch is established, I am concerned someone might aim at the branch's head. I would ask the imperial family to help watch over them." The Empress's features moved as if to agree, but catching the anxious look on Juju Qing's face, she altered her tone. "Pavilion Master Ye is jesting. Since the Clear Sky sect's fall, who does not know of Frost Snow Pavilion? Who would dare attack a branch master of Frost Snow Pavilion? Why would you need our imperial family's protection? Still, if Pavilion Master Ye requires assistance, this Empress will, of course, lend a hand." Her voice was gentle, but seriousness gathered in her eyes. "However, I have a troublesome matter on my hands. Pavilion Master Ye, would you be willing to lend an ear and offer some counsel?" The Empress almost tripped into a trap a moment before. If she had immediately promised imperial protection and Ye Shi then made Juzu King the branch master, the imperial family would be bound to protect an appointee selected by Frost Snow Pavilion, undermining the family's rules. Yet if she refused and something happened to the appointed branch head while the Empress had pledged protection, it would be an embarrassment and could provoke Frost Snow Pavilion's ire. The Star Luo family wasn't naive. They relied on nearly 1 million soldiers rather than a strength of titled Douluo, few of whom they possessed. And while they could not realistically march to Heaven Dew City to destroy Frost Snow Pavilion, they also knew Frost Snow could send titled Douluo into the Star Luo realm and wreak havoc. Neither the Empress nor the Xingluo Emperor wished to start such a conflict if it could be avoided. "Please, tell me," the Empress urged, fixing her eyes on Ye Shi. Ye Shi tapped the table lightly, her gaze drifting as if pondering. "Your Highness, I am but shallow in learning and cannot claim to know the right course. I beg your Highness's pardon." She feigned ignorance. Chapter 322. Now that you're here, why be in such a hurry to leave? The Star Luo Empress raised an eyebrow when she saw Pavilion Master Ye's expression. Little fox, she thought. Their gazes locked, and the quiet hall filled with the low exchange of words. The Empress skillfully diffused each of Pavilion Master Ye's verbal traps. When she couldn't give a definitive answer, she replied that the decision would have to be reported to His Majesty. Pavilion Master Ye, simpler in approach, relied on her youth, playing the ignorant, the inexperienced, the eager to learn, to parry and prod. After a round of sparring, neither side gained the upper hand. It went on until evening. The banquet broke up. The Empress, throat a little dry, sipped clear tea before rising. "It's getting late," she said. "This Empress will return to the Imperial Palace now. Pavilion Master Ye, you are welcome to visit the palace when you have time." Her voice was warm with a smile. "Thank you for your Highness the Empress's kind offer," Pavilion Master Ye replied with a faint smile. Duke Yuming, who had been observing silently, stood to escort the Empress. As he passed Juzuking, he paused. "Juking, arrange rooms for Pavilion Master Ye and the two titled Douluo. I will see off Her Highness." He then followed the Star Luo Empress out of the hall. Juzuking led Pavilion Master Ye, Ling Yuan, and Ghost Leopard to their rooms, walking along the bluestone path. After a moment's thought, she still asked, "Pavilion Master, is everything going as planned?" Pavilion Master Ye, taking in the garden scenery, waved a hand. "Just as expected. This sort of thing won't succeed all at once," she added. "It must be handled slowly." Her voice was calm. Juzuking nodded and quietly led them on. After a brief tour, Pavilion Master Ye chose a quiet corner room. Ling Yuan and Ghost Leopard's rooms flanked hers. Once inside, Pavilion Master Ye barely glanced around before sitting cross-legged on the bed and entering cultivation. Ling Yuan waited at the doorway while Ghost Leopard took position on the roof, keeping watch. "Ling Yuan, you should get some rest," Ghost Leopard transmitted. "I'll protect young miss tonight. That will be enough," Ling Yuan answered. She thought for a moment, nodded, and returned to her room. Late at night, as Pavilion Master Yi meditated, a blood-colored pattern blossomed between her brows, small and sword-like. Deep within her sea of spirit, the ice jade Emperor Scorpion, which had been resting with its eyes closed, opened them at once. "What is that?" it wondered. It had just seen a flicker of black shadow that vanished instantly. As it scanned, it felt something odd behind it. Turning, it saw a phantom form appear in the bloodlight. "It seems the phantom sent a message to the main body," the Asura god's phantom muttered to itself, then looked at the scorpion. "Never mind. Continue your rest." The Asura god's phantom faded away. The Ice Jade Emperor Scorpion was bewildered. It had been alone in the Sea of Spirit for a long time. Only now did it realize there was another presence. After a moment's thought, it moved away from where the Asura god had been and lay down again, planning to question Pavilion Master Ye later. In the god realm, in the Shura god's hall, the Asura god peered toward the continent after receiving the divine thought message. "Found it," he said. "Quite the runner." Then his figure vanished from the hall. Under the silent night sky, a massive tiger streaked across, fur patterned black, one blue eye and one red, and a golden vertical pupil set on its forehead. "Damn it, I'm such a fool," it cursed to itself. "Evil Eye Saint King, why did I have to be curious and go take a look? Run, run. I hope I make it in time." It raced like a meteor through the sky, then pain stabbed its head. It fell from the heavens, smashing into the ground and cracking the earth beneath it. Shaking its head, the Evil Eye Saint King looked up at the figure that had come into being before him, clear-eyed now. "Law enforcement officer, sir. Are you here to watch the stars too?" the Asura god asked. Little tiger won't disturb you, sir, the evil-eye Saint King said as his body backed away. Then a palm filled his vision and came down, slapping his head. Under that immense force, his body spun and he collapsed. Since you're already here, why be in such a hurry to leave? The Asura god asked lightly, twirling his fingertips as he put a foot on the evil-eye Saint King's back. He looked almost amused, as if wondering what the tiger had been thinking. Law enforcement officer, sir? The evil-eye Saint King croaked, a bitter expression crossing his face. He wanted to berate himself for his curiosity. He had come and got away with it, maybe, but getting back might not be so simple. The Asura god smiled faintly. Little tiger, I have a Tao in the god realm, dangerous, but very profitable. Want to hear it? Can I not listen? The evil-eye Saint King asked, swallowing, uncertain. What do you think? The Asura god prompted. Blood-colored light gathered in his hand. Law enforcement officer, sir, please, speak. Little tiger will listen carefully, the tiger said, laying himself flat in an attitude of forced attention. The Asura god transmitted something then, and the evil-eye Saint King's expression shifted, reluctant but intrigued. As you know, as a law enforcement officer, I am the most fair, the Asura god said. If you don't want to, say so. A phantom longsword appeared in the Asura god's palm and pierced the ground before the tiger. Law enforcement officer, sir, you're joking, the evil-eye Saint King said with a pained smile, all the bitterness showing. How could I not be willing? The Asura god replied, then changed tack. By the way, did you see me tonight? The evil-eye Saint King, still reeling on the ground, froze. Law enforcement officer, sir, do you think I saw you or not? He answered warily. The Asura god's eyes narrowed. I didn't see you. Everything was my own thought. It was all my own will, the evil-eye Saint King insisted earnestly. Chapter 323, Where did this little beast come from? Listening to the evil-eye Saint King's reply, the Asura god nodded with satisfaction. Go, he said. When it's done, your reward will not be small. As he spoke, his gaze drifted toward the Nether Duke's mansion, and for a moment something unusually tender flickered across his face. The evil-eye Saint King bowed and silently retreated. The Asura god muttered to himself, Among the gods, this one is probably the kindest to his legacy bearers, isn't he? Then his form dissolved into motes of light and vanished as if he had never been there. Morning sunlight poured through the window. Yishi opened her eyes, stretched, and was just about to get up when the Ice Jade Emperor Scorpion's voice echoed inside her spirit sea. Yishi, I need to tell you about last night. The Scorpion relayed the events in detail. There was a fleeting black shadow, and then someone suddenly appeared. Yishi frowned. She couldn't identify what the black shadow might have been, but the person that followed was unmistakable, the Asura god. It's probably nothing, she decided. If anything had gone wrong, the Asura god would have told her. After a quick wash, Yishi opened her door and froze. A small creature sat in the doorway, compact, marked with black patterns, eyes of different colors, and a golden vertical pupil set into its forehead. It cocked its head and regarded her curiously. Is that a cat? Someone murmured. Looks like a little tiger, another voice said. Yishi squinted and muttered, They're all felines, but this one isn't very pretty. Despite not being truly ugly, it simply didn't fit her aesthetic, so she judged it less than appealing. The little beast bristled at her assessment. I'm not ugly, it protested, indignant. I'm definitely handsome. I've been hiding on the continent for years. No one ever said I'm not good-looking. It glanced down its own body, let out a petulant growl, and revealed the truth of its identity. This was the evil-eye Saint King, but shrunk to its original juvenile form. Yishi reached out and poked its head. Ghost leopard, did you bring this little thing in? She looked up toward the roof, where the ghost leopard had been perched. The ghost leopard blinked, then noticed the creature at Yishi's feet with surprise. He had been on the roof all night and prided himself on sensing the slightest disturbance, yet he had felt nothing from this creature. That only left two possibilities. It either had no spirit power signature at all, or it was far more powerful than he was. Seeing it now, so small and helpless, made either option implausible. Most likely, he had simply been negligent at some point, and the thing had slipped in unseen. You might have wandered in from the Duke's mansion, he suggested after a moment, leaping down to stand before Yishi. But I was outside all night. I didn't bring it in. Yeshi nodded and bent to examine the small Saint King again. Ling Yuan stepped out of her room and gave the creature only a cursory glance. No spirit power fluctuations, no reason to worry. They walked toward the main hall. Duke Yuming had already laid out an impressive breakfast spread and waved them to the table. His eyes caught on the little beast at Yeshi's feet, and he leaned forward. "Is that Pavilion Master Ye's pet?" someone supplied. "Why didn't I notice it yesterday?" Duke Yuming wondered aloud, then smiled. "Well raised, Pavilion Master Ye." Yeshi, momentarily puzzled by the praise, looked at the creature and then lifted it by the scruff. "My pet?" she echoed. Duke Yuming hesitated, then realized there might be more to the question. A small creature with no detectable spirit imprint would not usually be wandering through a mansion like his, and yet it followed Yeshi closely. He concluded it must belong to her after all. "Please wait a moment," he said. "I'll have some good meat prepared for it." Yeshi mulled over whether he meant to gift it to her or whether the mansion had simply mistaken its origin. She quickly set the thought aside. If he was offering, she might as well accept it for amusement. After breakfast, she reached down and spoke gently to the little Saint King. "From now on, stay with me. I promise I won't treat you badly." The creature hopped lightly onto her arm and settled on her shoulder. "Quite smart," Yeshi observed and stood up. With Ling Yuan and the ghost leopard trailing quietly behind, Yeshi went to Zhu King's room to pay a brief visit. After greeting Zhu King, the group departed the Nether Duke's mansion together, the tiny Evil Eye Saint King content on Yeshi's shoulder as they stepped out into the day. Chapter 324, Go to the Fire Leopard Sect. On a busy street, Zhu King glanced at Yeshi and frowned. "Pavilion Master, this doesn't look like the way to the Douluo Imperial Palace." Yeshi walked ahead with her hands clasped behind her back. "We're not going to the Imperial Palace yet." Zhu King blinked. "Why not? Going now would only repeat yesterday's result. We'll head to the Fire Leopard Sect first and build some leverage." Yeshi's voice was calm. Zhu King nodded, only half understanding, and fell into step behind her. After about 3 hours of walking, the Fire Leopard Sect came into view. Yeshi glanced around, then led them straight to the mountain gate. The duty disciple bowed when Yeshi announced herself, and another disciple escorted them deep into the sect. In the main hall, Sect Master Fire Yan Leopard sat on the main seat, while Wind Bailong, Sect Master of the Wind Sword Sect, occupied the guest seat. "How are the arrangements you asked for coming along?" Wind Bailong asked, sipping clear tea, his tone casual. The news he'd received had been sparse compared to Fire Yan Leopard's, so he wasn't anxious. "Almost finished," Fire Yan Leopard replied. "We only need young Miss to arrive." Fire Yan Leopard's eyes flicked to Wind Bailong. His expression was oddly guarded. He had begun preparations the moment he'd received Yeshi's message, but he hadn't expected Wind Bailong to be involved as well. He silently marveled at how deeply hidden Yeshi's connections were. Of course, Yeshi herself had no idea Wind Bailong was part of this plan. Bibi Dong had activated Wind Bailong as a hidden piece without informing Yeshi. Their conversation was cut off by approaching footsteps. Both sect masters turned to the hall entrance and rose as Yeshi entered. "Young miss, you have arrived." Their voices were respectful. Yeshi dipped her head slightly at Fire Yan Leopard, but when she saw Wind Bailong beside him, a hint of surprise crossed her face. Wind Bailong produced a letter from Bibi Dong and handed it to Yeshi. She skimmed it, folded it away, and then moved to the main seat. Ling Yuan and Ghost Leopard stood on either side of her. The Evil Eye Saint King descended from her shoulder and settled on the chair's armrest. Zhu King hesitated a moment before taking position behind Fire Yan Leopard and Wind Bailong. "How are the preparations I asked for?" Yeshi asked, her fingers stroking the Evil Eye Saint King's head. "Everything you required is ready," Fire Yan Leopard said confidently, patting his chest. "We can begin the operation at any time." "Good." Yeshi snapped her fingers lightly. Wind Bailong, accompany Fire Yan Leopard. Both sect masters bowed and left the hall. Once they were gone, Yeshi's blue eyes turned toward the Imperial Palace. Her expression shifted, growing colder and more intent. At the Douluo Imperial Palace, Emperor Xingluo stood by a ribbon of flowing water, hands clasped behind him as he calmly watched fish glide beneath the surface. "I probed yesterday. the Star Luo Empress said softly beside him. Yishi didn't say it outright, but it was clear. She's here about Zhu Qing's engagement. The Emperor hummed in reply. His voice remained even. I'm curious why she's interfering in our family matters. Is she that close to Zhu Qing? The Empress had no answer. Frost Snow Pavilion, Yishi. She paused. For now, don't antagonize them. Tell Weiss and the others to be cautious and avoid offending the Frost Snow Pavilion if possible. Let's see what they intend to do and how they'll do it. Before the words were finished, a guard knelt and reported, Your Majesty, according to recent intelligence, disciples from the Fire Leopard sect and the Wind Sword sect have made moves. Many have already entered the city. Emperor Xingluo skimmed the report and considered. Fire Leopard sect and Wind Sword sect, he murmured. Interesting. He tapped a token into the guard's hand. Monitor their actions closely. As a precaution, have the great general bring his forces back into the city discreetly. Yes, Your Majesty. The guard accepted the token and withdrew. The Star Luo Empress watched him go, thoughtful. They have great reputations. There are no mediocre people among them. I'd like to see what method Yeshi will use to make me agree to Zhu Qing's engagement. Her voice carried a mix of curiosity and wariness. This is not the Heaven Do Empire, not her Frost Snow Pavilion. This is my Star Luo Empire. Emperor Xingluo's gaze hardened. There was a flash of lethal resolve in his eyes. While he respected the Frost Snow Pavilion, he would not be intimidated if Yeshi tried to cause trouble in his domain. Try not to offend them unless absolutely necessary, the Empress urged quietly. From what we know, the Frost Snow Pavilion does not easily concede losses. I understand. The Emperor fell silent, watching the city beyond. Star Luo City itself seemed unchanged on the surface, but beneath its calm facade, tension gathered. Disciples from the Fire Leopard sect and the Wind Sword sect streamed into the city from many directions. A carrier eagle rose from the imperial palace and flew toward the great general's location. Beneath the ordinary bustle, waves of unrest had begun to swell. Back at the Fire Leopard sect, Yeshi sat in the main seat, her fingers tapping the armrest in time. She checked the time and waited for word from Fire Yan Leopard and Wind Bailong. Ling Yuan and Ghost Leopard rested with their eyes closed. Zhu Qing sat below, occasionally glancing up at Yeshi for instruction. The hall was unusually still. The Evil Eye Saint King lay at Yeshi's feet, a faint glint of thought passing through his eyes. Stay put, adapt to the situation, or act. He considered the options, weighing whether to move now or remain by her side for the time being. Chapter 325, The Xingluo Emperor in a Cold Sweat. Time passed slowly. The Evil Eye Saint King, still lying at Yeshi's feet, was the first to lift his head and look toward the hall entrance. A messenger eagle flew in. Ling Yuan stepped forward, caught the bird, removed the letter tied to its leg, and respectfully handed it to Yeshi. Yeshi read the letter carefully. A faint, composed smile curved her lips. She set the letter aside, picked up paper and pen, and wrote an invitation. Ghost Leopard, take this to the Star Luo Imperial Palace. At an appropriate moment, you may show your strength. Ghost Leopard accepted the invitation with a bow and flew toward the Star Luo Imperial Palace. Let's go. We'll return to the Nether Duke's mansion for the night and visit the Imperial Palace tomorrow, Yeshi said. She reached for the Evil Eye Saint King, who stepped onto her arm and settled on her shoulder. Zhu Qing hurried to keep pace. Pavilion Master, if we do this, can we really negotiate properly at the Imperial Palace tomorrow? She asked, doubt evident in her eyes. According to Yeshi's arrangements, disciples of the Fire Leopard sect and the Wind Sword sect had already infiltrated Star Luo City. Yeshi had explicitly told Ghost Leopard that he could display his strength at an appropriate time. Those who knew would assume the target was the Xingluo Emperor. Those who didn't might think Yeshi planned a coup. The premise of negotiation is that both sides must be on equal footing, or at least not too far apart, Yeshi replied coolly. Have you ever seen a rabbit negotiate with a tiger? She added. Zhu Qing considered it and found Yeshi's words reasonable. At the Star Luo Imperial Palace, Ghost Leopard arrived above the complex, considered Yeshi's instructions, released his spirit power, and descended step by step. Spirit rings appeared under his feet with each landing. The aura of a titled Douluo radiated without restraint. Who goes there? A furious voice thundered. How dare you be presumptuous in my imperial palace? The Xingluo emperor roared as his figure appeared in midair. The palace's imperial guards swarmed around him. Frost Snow Pavilion, Ghost Leopard announced, then added, "Here to deliver an invitation for my young miss." He tossed the invitation toward the Xingluo emperor and subtly surveyed the guards below. The emperor's face was displeased, but he concealed it. He opened the invitation and read it carefully. There was nothing improper in its wording. In fact, it contained a tone of admiration. Still, he bristled at the implication of Ghost Leopard standing before him. "What does Frost Snow Pavilion mean by this?" he muttered inwardly. "To slap me and then offer a sweet invitation? To let Ghost Leopard show his strength while flattering me?" He suppressed his irritation and composed himself. "This is the first time I've had an invitation delivered like this," he said aloud, regaining a regal tone. "I accept. Tomorrow I will hold a banquet and await your young lady's visit." Ghost Leopard inclined his head and left. As he watched him go, the Xingluo emperor's eyes narrowed and a dangerous glint surfaced. "Have the imperial guards drill in front of the banquet hall tomorrow. There must not be a single mistake." With that, he strode back into the palace. The imperial guard commander began arranging the drills immediately. Once preparations were complete, the guards withdrew in formation. Night fell. On the quiet streets, the Fire Leopard and Wind Sword sect disciples remained busy. They stood in neat ranks in front of a lavish building bearing the three characters Frost Snow Pavilion. Fire Yan Leopard and Wind Bailong stood at the left and right of the pavilion, eyes occasionally flicking toward a Star Luo scout positioned to watch. Their restraint was deliberate. The whole display was meant for the Empire to see. Back at the Nether Duke's mansion, the Evil Eye Saint King, who had been dozing near Yexi's door, opened his eyes quietly, stretched, and looked toward the imperial palace. "Displaying strength? I can do that," he murmured, then slipped away unnoticed. Evil Eye Saint King moved through the imperial palace with absolute silence and soon reached the Xingluo emperor's bedchamber. He studied the sleeping emperor, a cunning smile flickering in his eyes. After some time, he prepared his work, inspected it with satisfaction, and vanished as silently as he had arrived. How long passed, no one knew. Outside the bedchamber, a guard's voice suddenly called out, "Your Majesty, the scout has returned with news." At that sound, the Xingluo emperor's eyes snapped open. He stared in horror. A sharp sword hung directly above his forehead, suspended only 2 centimeters from his skin. If he rose, he would certainly strike it. The sword itself was terrifying, but more terrifying was the skill it took to place it there without waking him. Even with his strength, he would be fine if the sword were simply struck. What chilled him was the thought that someone could stage such a silent assassination, and that they could do it again. The Xingluo emperor waved a trembling hand and knocked the sword down. He forced his breath steady and tried to calm his racing mind. "Was this the doing of Frost Snow Pavilion?" he whispered, each possibility worse than the last. "Do they conceal themselves so well? Is this simply a demonstration of power, or does it mean something more?" A storm of questions thundered through his head. Though the emperor himself was not as powerful as Ghost Leopard, he was still a level 92 titled Douluo. Who in the shadows could act so silently? At last he climbed out of bed, opened the door to his chamber, and looked at the kneeling guard. Softly, he asked, "What news did the scout bring back?" The guard bowed his head and began to report the scout's findings in full detail. Chapter 326, Fear from Within. After listening to the guard's report, the Xingluo emperor waved him away and returned to his bedchamber in silence. He looked at the bed, but felt no desire to sleep. He even felt unsafe in his own chambers. After a long moment of hesitation, he decided to go to the Star Luo Empress's bedchamber. Though the Empress was not as powerful as he was, spirit fusion with her would feel much safer than being alone. Before leaving, he stared lingeringly at the sword that had fallen to the floor the night before, the memory of it still chilling him. Morning. Nether Duke's mansion. Yexi, Ling Yuan, the Ghost Leopard, Juju King, and the shrunken Evil Eye Saint King left after enjoying the breakfast. Duke Yuming had prepared for them and headed for the Star Luo Imperial Palace. The Evil Eye Saint King rode quietly on Yexi's shoulder as they walked through the busy streets toward the palace. Because they had sent a formal invitation the day before and stated their identities, a guard led them straight to the palace reception hall. At the entrance, the Xingluo Emperor and the Star Luo Empress waited on the threshold, greeting them with composed, gentle expressions. "Pavilion Master Ye," the Emperor said, "I have long heard of your renown, but meeting you now makes me realize the rumors were actually understated." As he spoke, the Xingluo Emperor's gaze kept flicking past Ye Shi, as if searching for something behind her. Ye Shi and Juju King could be dismissed. There was no way they had pulled off what had happened last night. Ling Yuan and the Ghost Leopard were stronger than most, but it seemed unlikely they could have infiltrated the Emperor's bedchamber and hung a sword over his head without being detected. Was someone else hiding nearby? The Emperor subtly sent out his mental force, probing the surroundings for the slightest disturbance. No matter how carefully he searched, he found nothing. "Your Majesty flatters me," Ye Shi replied politely, though a trace of doubt clouded her eyes. She did not know what the Emperor was searching for. Conspiracy? She rubbed her fingertips together, but with Ling Yuan and the Ghost Leopard behind her, and with her spatial abilities, if things went wrong, she felt confident enough. The Xingluo Emperor offered a hand in welcome. "Pavilion Master Ye, please come in." Normally, given the precautions Ye Shi had had the Fire Leopard sect and the Wind Sword sect take the previous night, the Emperor wouldn't have greeted them so amiably, unless he was testing them. The sword hanging above his bed had left him unnerved. His friendliness now was largely meant to probe whether Frost Snow Pavilion had been behind the incident. If so, what would he do the next time? What if the next time the sword fell for real? Inside the hall, they took the places the Emperor had arranged. The Evil Eye Saint King hopped down and obediently settled at Ye Shi's feet. The Xingluo Emperor and the Empress sat on the main seats. He clapped once, and palace maids brought out delicate pastries and fragrant tea. "Pavilion Master Ye," the Emperor began, smiling gently. "I understand your intent. Establishing a branch of Frost Snow Pavilion in our Star Luo Empire is acceptable. But the other matter, I'm afraid that cannot be agreed to." Ye Shi's face remained calm. "Your Majesty, I do not wish to interfere with imperial affairs, but I made a promise and I intend to keep it." Her tone was neither servile nor arrogant. Her meaning was clear. She would not meddle in the imperial line, but Juju King must be protected. The Emperor reached for a pastry, looking over at Juju King with obvious implication. Then he asked conversationally, "How do our Star Luo guards compare to those of the Heaven Do Empire? I hear our army is somewhat stronger." "You govern well, Your Majesty," Ye Shi answered smoothly. "If I may mention, last night the Fire Leopard sect and the Wind Sword sect entered Star Luo City and may have caused minor disturbances. I hope the court was not offended." "Last night?" the Xingluo Emperor repeated, his eyes narrowed. "Was it only the two sects?" Suddenly he slammed his palm on the table. The sound echoed through the hall. Ye Shi's leg twitched, ready to kick the table. Ling Yuan and the Ghost Leopard shifted into alert stances. Juju King leaned forward. The Evil Eye Saint King at Ye Shi's feet opened one eye. The golden vertical pupil on its forehead flashed, and an invisible pressure dropped over the Emperor. He felt it immediately, an oppressive weight on his spirit that made his body tremble. A cold fear rose from somewhere deep inside him, his spirit quaking as though something vast and terrible were staring at him. For a heartbeat, he could not even form a coherent thought. It was Frost Snow Pavilion who did it, he heard himself think. There are still people from Frost Snow Pavilion hiding in the shadows. "I believe we can discuss this," he managed to say. As he spoke, the pressure lifted. The Emperor exhaled as if he'd just been saved from drowning. Relief washed over his features. Ye Shi, too, let out a quiet breath of relief. Annoyed at the unnecessary dramatics, Ye Shi thought, "If you can talk, then talk properly. Why bang the table and scare everyone?" The Evil Eye Saint King flicked a look of mild disdain, then closed its eye again. Ling Yuan and the Ghost Leopard relaxed a fraction, but remained watchful. Juju King's eyes shone with hope. If they could talk, perhaps she would not be offered as the imperial family's sacrifice after all. Chapter 327, I Want to Be Tough, But I Don't Dare. Ye Shi shifted her posture and sat up straighter, adopting an attentive air. "Your Majesty, since we can talk, Please state your terms. If they are reasonable, I will seriously consider them." The Xingluo Emperor said nothing more, his gaze turning to Zhu King with a thoughtful look. He had to weigh the matters of Zhu King and Dai Mubai carefully. The Star Luo Empire and the Nether Duke's mansion had been linked by marriage for generations. Their engagement had been arranged since childhood. A rash dissolution would damage the reputations of both the Empire and the Nether Duke's mansion. After a long moment, the Xingluo Emperor's eyes returned to Ye Shi. "Pavilion Master Ye, I have only 2 requests. The dignity of the Star Luo Empire must not be harmed, and if possible, the reputation of the Nether Duke's mansion should be preserved." "What do you propose?" Ye Shi asked. The Emperor's tone was unusually mild, his expression warm. Watching him soften like this, Ye Shi's own blue eyes narrowed slightly. He had not been this conciliatory at first. This was far more agreeable than she'd expected. It was obvious he wanted to be firm, but he didn't dare. The invisible pressure he'd felt earlier left him unwilling to push back. He seemed genuinely afraid of what might happen if he pressed the issue. Whether Ye Shi herself dared was another matter. By all appearances, she feared little. She would take on a Platinum Bishop of Spirit Hall if she chose. The Clear Sky Sect, once one of the upper 3 sects, had been annihilated when she decided it needed to be. The Frost Snow Pavilion had since replaced the Clear Sky Sect among the upper 3 sects. "These 2 requests are not excessive," Ye Shi said. "I can accept them. And the solution is simple. For an arranged marriage, if one party is gone, the match cannot continue. You can rest assured the Frost Snow Pavilion will not interfere in the Empire's internal affairs." She let the suggestion hang in the air, giving the Emperor a moment to think. He glanced at Zhu King and then nodded slightly without further comment. He understood Ye Shi's implication. In the Star Luo Empire, the rule of succession could be cruel. Fraternal combat decided the crown prince. Victors rose, losers perished. If Dai Mubai were to die in such a contest, the engagement to Zhu King would naturally be dissolved. As for whether Dai Mubai could defeat Dai Weishi, the Emperor had never seriously considered it. Although Dai Mubai was in the Heaven Do Empire, the Xingluo Emperor still received scraps of information and had been disappointed. Dai Mubai seemed to have given up on ambition. He indulged himself in pleasure and restraint only when Zhu King showed up. Once she left, he sank back into his old ways. If he chose not to fight, that was his own decision. When the Xingluo Emperor's nod became clear, Zhu King's face lit up and her fingers curled into tight, excited fists. She hadn't been thinking about Dai Mubai so much as about her own future. She had asked him repeatedly whether he was willing to fight, and when he chose not to, that was on him. All she wanted now was a peaceful, stable life. Ye Shi gave Zhu King a gentle pat on the shoulder to calm her and then added, "Your Majesty, one small matter more." A faint smile crossed Ye Shi's face as she looked at the Xingluo Emperor in the main seat. Since things had gone smoothly so far, her mood had brightened. The only surprise was how accommodating the Emperor had been. Many of her contingency plans might never be needed. "What is it?" the Emperor asked kindly. "The Frost Snow Pavilion has established a branch hall," Ye Shi said. "In a few days, after we finish arranging things, I would like to invite Your Majesty and the various sects as our guests. I hope Your Majesty can send someone to attend." The Emperor rose and bowed slightly in return. "Of course, if I cannot be there myself, I will send representatives." He glanced at the time and realized it was nearly noon. "I have arranged a banquet. Let us go now." "That would be respectful," Ye Shi replied. She led the way, the Xingluo Emperor following. Ling Yuan, Ghost Leopard, Zhu King, and the others trailed a half-step behind. Far to the north, the wind howled and snow fell in steady sheets. A slender figure trailed behind a man in a black robe, walking deeper into the frozen wastes. At a frozen river, the slender figure stopped, broke the ice, and used the biting water to wash blood from his hands and clothes. "Is it clean?" the black-robed man asked in a hoarse voice. "It's clean," the slender figure answered without looking up. "But can it really be clean?" the hoarse voice mocked. The slender figure seemed to take the taunt in, then lifted his head to look at the black-robed man, though he still offered no reply. "Tang San," the black-robed man said, "you are now one of us. The stains on you will never truly wash away." We can help you get revenge, but you know our situation. With Spirit Hall watching, we can't move openly on this continent. We won't be able to help you in public." He settled on a nearby rock and crossed his arms. "What do you want me to do?" "Just say it straight." "It will take time for the holy sect to arrive on this continent," the black-robed man continued. "During that time, I need you to stir up trouble among the factions here, create openings for the holy sect. We will assist you in secret. If you can bring the pavilion master of the Frost Snow Pavilion to the holy sect, your standing in our ranks will rise quickly." "A spirit brimful of slaughter. What a good seedling," he added with a half-smile. Tang San nodded. "I understand. I'll do my best. Follow me. I'll take you to meet the others." The black-robed man rose and went deeper into the snow. Tang San fell in beside him and followed quietly. Chapter 328. I have a connection in the far north. They walked across the endless white snow. Tang San's steps paused. He turned his head, listening. "What is it?" The black-robed figure glanced at him, a trace of annoyance in his voice. "I think I hear two of my friends." "Let's go see," Tang San said, and headed toward the sound. A shadow of gloom crossed the black-robed figure's eyes, but he said nothing and fell in step behind him. Not long after, they reached the source of the noise and saw a mirror beast in hot pursuit of two people, Oscar and Ma Hongjun. "Oscar, I actually believed your nonsense," Ma Hongjun panted, pushing his spirit to the limit and speeding up. "Travel all the way to the far north just to get beaten up with you." "Stop fetching, fatty. Why don't you admit you can't even beat him?" Oscar shot back, then bit into a flying mushroom sausage and surged forward. They ran fast, but the mirror beast ran faster. Just as it was about to catch them, a strand of blue-silver grass with a black sheen burst up from the snow and wrapped around the beast. The black-robed figure dropped down onto the beast's head, pressing down with his feet and forcing the mirror beast into the snow, immobilizing it. "Third brother?" Ma Hongjun looked back in stunned recognition at Tang San. According to the rumors that had spread through Heaven Do City, Tang San had died in the Star Do Great Forest. So how was he here in the far north? "Little San, you're still alive!" Oscar's eyes went wide with shock. Then he turned his gaze to the black-robed figure. "Little San, who is this?" Tang San stepped forward. "This is a senior of mine." He nodded toward the black-robed man without offering further introduction. The stranger didn't mind the lack of ceremony. He scrutinized Ma Hongjun with keen interest, a look of appreciation and eagerness in his eyes. "Third brother, you might not know yet, the Clear Sky sect and the Tang sect are now," Ma Hongjun began. Tang San cut him off with a wave. "I know. Everything that happened, I know." There was undisguised killing intent in his voice. Ma Hongjun fell silent and sighed. "Senior, can I have this mirror beast? I still lack a spirit ring." Oscar glanced at the black-robed figure, rubbing his hands awkwardly. "You can." The black-robed man climbed down from the mirror beast and walked toward Ma Hongjun. Meanwhile, Oscar drew a short sword, preparing to deliver the finishing blow himself so he could absorb the beast's spirit ring. "I have a contact back on the main road," the black-robed man said, eyeing Ma Hongjun. "It's a bit risky, but the payoff can be considerable. Want to try?" "A contact," Ma Hongjun echoed in confusion, looking to Tang San for clarification. "Third brother, what's going on?" Tang San placed a solemn hand on Ma Hongjun's shoulder. "I'll explain on the way. As your brother, if you come with me, I won't let you take a loss." Ma Hongjun glanced between Tang San and the black-robed man, bewildered, but he didn't press any further. He waited for Oscar to finish absorbing the spirit ring. A day and a night passed quickly. Once Oscar had absorbed the ring, he fell in with Ma Hongjun, Tang San, and the black-robed senior, and the four of them moved deeper into the snow-covered wastes, their figures soon swallowed by the white expanse, as if they had never been there. Star Luo Empire, Star Luo City, the branch hall of the Frost Snow Pavilion. Yeshi sat upright on the main seat, legs crossed, toes tapping gently. Ling Yuan and the ghost leopard stood behind her, one at each shoulder. Fire Yan Leopard, Wind Bailong, and Zhu King stood on the lower platform. "Zhu King, when I'm away, you'll be the hall master of this branch hall," Yeshi instructed softly. "Fire Yan Leopard and Wind Bailong will be vice hall masters and will assist Zhu King in managing matters here." The branch hall is newly established. Fire Yan Leopard, Wind Bailong, have your disciples send invitations to the various sects in the Luo Empire. If any sect refuses or declines to attend, make a note of them. Afterwards, I'll visit them myself with Ling Yuan and the Ghost Leopard. Miss, what date should we put on the invitations? Wind Bailong stepped forward and bowed slightly. 2 days from now, Yeshi said, her voice distant. She missed Qian Renshui back in Heaven Do City. With Qian Renshui to handle things, Yeshi could give broad directives while the other settled all the details. It made her job as a hands-off leader so much easier. Though Fire Yan Leopard and Wind Bailong were both sect masters, Yeshi still considered them a little lacking compared to Qian Renshui in terms of administrative skill. We'll instruct our disciples at once, Fire Yan Leopard and Wind Bailong replied and bowed, then withdrew. Only Yeshi, Ling Yuan, the Ghost Leopard, and Juju King remained in the vast hall. Yeshi turned to Juju King. Juqing, familiarize yourself with the branch hall's affairs. As hall master, you must learn how to handle everything. I'll return to cultivation now, Juju King said respectfully. If you have any questions, ask Ling Yuan, Yeshi urged earnestly. Pavilion master, don't worry. I'll learn quickly and master the hall's duties, Juju King answered with serious resolve. Yeshi nodded, and her gaze drifted subtly toward Heaven Do City. She still missed Qian Renshui very much, but she would not return until the matters in the Luo Empire were settled and her own spirit power had reached level 70. Why level 70? The reason was simple. How could Ye Shi, champion of the Spirit Master Tournament, head of the upper 3 sects, Yaoyang Prince of the Heaven Do Empire, Slaughter King of Slaughter City, and Pontiff of Spirit Hall, always be the one who got bullied? When she reached level 70 and became a spirit saint, she intended to go back and reverse the situation. Snapping back to the present, Yeshi rose and went to her room. She sat cross-legged on the bed, closed her eyes, and entered meditation. As she cultivated, she could feel her spirit power slowly rising. She was now only a hair's breadth away from the crucial threshold to the next level. Chapter 329. When did I get a younger sister? Longxing City, the closest city to the Stardew Great Forest within the Luo Empire. On a bustling street, Xiaowu scanned her surroundings anxiously, as if searching for something. It's over. I lost the 3-eyed golden lion. If I go back, won't I be in big trouble? She jogged along, eyes flicking from side to side. Earlier, she had mentioned things about the human world to the 3-eyed golden lion, and its curiosity had gotten the better of it. On a dark, windy night, it had transformed and dragged her out of the Stardew Great Forest to Longxing City. Now, when she wasn't paying attention for just a moment, the transformed beast had slipped away. Xiaowu stopped. Ahead, a tall, slender girl with fair skin, long golden hair, and red eyes strutted out of an ornate restaurant, the manager trailing behind carrying her things. The girl took the items from him and walked over to Xiaowu. Oh, Xiaowu, what a coincidence, she said, accepting the manager's things. I brought you something. Xiaowu opened her mouth. 3, but the girl handed the packages to her before she could finish. In the human world, don't call me by my old name anymore, the girl said. I picked a new one myself. From now on, call me Wang Chuer. Wang Chuer's voice was breezy as she looked around. The human world was far more entertaining than she had imagined. After the satisfying meal she just had, her mood was excellent. This was the life. What had she been doing with Xiaowu before, eating nothing but radish and cabbage? A manager at the restaurant asked, Chuer, how do you want to settle this? I don't have enough gold coins on me. Xiaowu peered nervously at the manager and mentally ran through how much she had. Wang Chuer waved the question away. No need to pay. What do you mean, no need to pay? I already put it on an account, Wang Chuer said casually. You put it on an account? Xiaowu blinked. Wang Chuer reached into her clothes and produced a black feather. I used this to put it on the account. Remember that letter at the Life Lake? I kept the feather that came with it. It's pretty useful. Just remember the sender's name from the letter, take out this feather, and you can charge things to that account. So you just don't pay. Xiaowu stared at the feather. It doesn't work in every little shop, Wang Chuer added. You need a place that looks fancy like this. She toyed with the black feather, delighted. Xiaowu was stunned. Isn't that Doesn't that count as stealing in the human world? Wang Chuer smirked. What does immoral have to do with me? I'm not human. Besides, when you follow me, you eat better than you ever did in the forest. Radish and cabbage was a very different life. If we really run into a strong human, we'll run. If we can't run, don't be afraid. I'll send someone to beat them up. She put the feather away with an air of cocky confidence. Send someone? Xiao Wu stared. Chuer, did you forget? We snuck out. This isn't the Stardew Great Forest. How are you going to send someone to beat them up here? Wang Chuer wasn't fazed. She produced 2 dragon scales from her garments, one black and one silver. This one is Ditian's. He can sense if I'm in danger. And this is Nana Ji's. If Ditian can't get here in time, Nana Ji will come personally, so there's nothing to worry about. She dangled the scales in front of Xiao Wu. Hold these for me, and let's go have fun elsewhere. Tucking the scales away, she strode off. Xiao Wu hesitated, then followed. 2 days later, in the Frost Snow Pavilion branch hall, Ye Shi rose from cultivation and took the main seat. Before her were stacks of bills. Her azure eyes darkened with puzzlement. When did I get a younger sister? Why didn't anyone tell me? She picked up a bill and frowned. Using my name to put things on accounts everywhere. That's bold. Her gaze shifted to Ling Yuan. Young miss? All of these bills are from Longsing City. Should I go and investigate? Ling Yuan bowed slightly. No need. Ye Shi's tone was level, but the coldness in her eyes betrayed her irritation. Someone had used her name outside the Frost Snow Pavilion, something that had never happened in the more than 10 years she'd lived in this world. The bills were mostly from restaurants, and the food listed looked quite good. You should prepare a banquet. Representatives from the major sects will arrive soon. Ling Yuan asked tentatively, Shall I prepare according to the highest standard? Do it. Ye Shi waved the suggestion away and rose to go change into something more formal. Ling Yuan left to make arrangements. Soon the entire branch hall buzzed with activity. Invitations went out, and representatives from many of the Starluo Empire's better-known sects began to arrive. Keifeng Sect, Black Tiger Sect, Yanling Sect, and others. To pay proper respect, most sent their sect masters in person. Those who couldn't sent high-ranking representatives. The Starluo Empire itself sent the first prince, Dai Weici. In no time, the entrance to the Frost Snow Pavilion branch hall was crowded, but under the guidance of attendants, everyone entered in an orderly fashion. Chapter 330. The Goodwill of the Sparrow Bee Clan. The Goodwill of the Sparrow Bee Clan. Chapter 328. Keifeng Sect's Show of Favor. The banquet hall buzzed with low conversation. The sect masters had handed the gifts they'd brought to the disciples of the Fire Leopard and Windsword sects, then taken their seats along the sides of the hall, chatting as they waited for the meal to begin. Time passed quietly until noon, when Fire Yan Leopard and Wind Bailong entered and took the more prominent seats up front. Behind them came Ling Yuan, Ghost Leopard, and Juju Qing, seated in the front row just below the main seat. Everyone's gazes turned to the entrance, waiting for the last guest. Soft footsteps sounded outside the door, and a graceful figure appeared. Ye Shi wore a formal, perfectly tailored gown. Her silver hair was swept back neatly, and her azure eyes carried an air of authority. She took the head seat and offered a polite smile, letting her gaze sweep over the assembled guests. She noted with satisfaction that not a single invited seat was empty. Everyone, Ye Shi began. I called this banquet today because the Frost Snow Pavilion sub-hall has just been established. In the future, within the Starluo Empire, I hope you will lend us your support. The hall master of our sub-hall is the second miss of the Nether Duke's mansion, Juju Qing. If I am absent from the Starluo Empire, she may make decisions on all matters, great and small, for the sub-hall. At her words, Ye Shi clicked her fingers, and the disciples of the Fire Leopard and Windsword sects stepped forward with trays of delicacies and fine wine, arranging them neatly before the guests. Pavilion Master Ye, you are too kind, said the Keifeng Sect Master with a warm smile. In the Starluo Empire, our Keifeng Sect still holds some influence. If ever the Frost Snow Pavilion needs anything, we will not refuse. He bowed to Ye Shi and then nodded politely to Juju Qing. Encouraged by the Keifeng Master's lead, the other sect masters rose in turn to express their goodwill, though few paid Juju Qing much attention. Yeshi smiled and nodded to each of them, most affable toward the Keifeng master. His graciousness had already marked him out as a priority she intended to cultivate, though she meant to woo other sects as well. With Yeshi the first to pick up her chopsticks, the banquet officially began. The Keifeng sect master maintained an especially gentle, deferential manner, followed closely by the Black Tiger sect. The remaining sects were polite, but the gap in warmth was evident. After 3 toasts and 5 courses, the Keifeng sect master set down his chopsticks and looked toward Yeshi. "Pavilion Master Ye," he asked, "I have heard that the treatment for those who join the Frost Snow Pavilion is very generous. Is that true?" Yeshi turned her gaze to him, a gleam in her eyes. "Our Frost Snow Pavilion's treatment is indeed generous." She indicated Fire Yan Leopard and Wind Bailong. "The 2 sect masters of the Fire Leopard and Wind Sword sects will serve as our sub-hall's vice hall masters." The Keifeng master tapped his finger on the table, considering. Yeshi said nothing further, content to let him weigh the offer, and kept a gentle smile on her face. Daiwasi, seated beside her, swirled the wine in his cup and watched her with interest, a pensive expression crossing his features. He thought to himself that it might be time to assert his position as crown prince. Conversations continued around the hall. Only the Black Tiger sect master sat quietly, savoring his wine. Yeshi beckoned Juju King over, and Juju King rose and moved to her side, eyes curious. "After the banquet," Yeshi whispered, "if the sect masters of the Keifeng and Black Tiger sects linger, invite them to the main hall. And later, be sure to speak with the other sect masters. You'll be interacting with them a lot from now on." "I understand, Pavilion Master," Juju King replied, and returned to her seat. Yeshi rose, offering a small apology to the guests. "I have some matters to attend to. The hall master of our sub-hall will entertain you on my behalf." Just as she stood to leave, Daiwasi's voice called from the table, polite and pleasant. "Pavilion Master Ye, I have something I would like to discuss." Yeshi paused and glanced at him. "Ling Yuan, please take His Highness the First Prince to the main hall to wait for me." Ling Yuan rose and waited at the door until Daiwasi joined her, then led him toward the main hall. Yeshi, meanwhile, walked back to her chambers. She could guess at the topic Daiwasi wanted to raise. Probably something to do with Dai Mubai. At her door, she glanced at the miniature Evil Eye Saint King sprawled near the threshold, prodded its head with a finger, and went inside. In her room, she changed into her usual clothes, took a small knife, and cut fruit into bite-sized pieces before offering them to the little creature. Over the past few days, she'd noticed the miniature Evil Eye Saint King was oddly perceptive. It showed no spirit fluctuations, no outward signs of power, but it seemed highly intelligent and could understand her. It dove into the fruit with comic enthusiasm, puffing out its cheeks as it chewed. Once the creature had finished, Yeshi headed back to the main hall. There Daiwasi sat with a cup of clear tea, waiting quietly, while Ling Yuan sat nearby with her eyes closed in meditation. Chapter 331, Daiwasi's Plan. Yeshi entered the main hall and sat down before Daiwasi. "Your Highness, if there's anything you need, just say it," she said, folding her hands and watching him quietly. Daiwasi set his teacup down. "You have an interest in something related to Dai Mubai, Pavilion Master Ye?" "A bargaining chip," Yeshi replied softly. "If I become crown prince, the branch hall in Douluo City will fall under my authority," she added. Daiwasi gave a small, measured smile. That's not quite enough sincerity. Yeshi's eyes narrowed as she calculated. Getting a good result for Dai Mubai would already be excellent. Without outside help, he couldn't stand against Daiwasi, but negotiations called for pushing for the best possible terms. "Pavilion Master Ye," she said, "I can take care of Dai Mubai's situation myself. It's just troublesome and would take too long. I don't want to wait. You only need Frost Snow Pavilion to hold off the people from Shrek Academy. I'll handle everything else." Daiwasi's smile faded and his expression turned serious. "Agreed." Yeshi thought for a moment, then produced a single black feather and placed it before him. "Take this and find Ye Qingshui of Frost Snow Pavilion. She'll send people to help you, but only to intercept the Shrek Academy contingent." Daiwasi examined the feather, then tucked it away. "In that case, I'll trouble Pavilion Master Ye no further." He bowed slightly, rose, and left. Yeshi watched him go, her fingers twisting idly as her gaze drifted toward the banquet hall. Dai Mubai's affair had been a small opening. What she truly wanted were the Keifeng and Black Tiger sects. Winning them would greatly bolster her strength. Evening came, and the banquet broke up. Only Zhu Qing had come to the hall. The sect masters of Keifeng and Black Tiger never appeared. "Pavilion Master, I invited them as you asked," Zhu King reported, head bowed. They both returned, saying urgent matters required their attention. The sect master of Keifeng said he would visit again in a few days. "I understand," Yeshi said. "Keep trying to sway Keifeng and Black Tiger." "Tomorrow, Ling Yan and I will leave the branch hall and head to Longsing City. Ghost Leopard will stay behind for now. If you need anything, ask Ghost Leopard." Yeshi stood calmly and walked toward her room. Zhu Zuqing bowed as she retreated. Early the next morning, after arranging the branch hall's affairs, Yeshi set out with Ling Yan and the miniaturized Evil Eye Saint King for Longsing City. Luo City and Longsing City were only a 2 or 3 day journey apart. They arrived 2 days later. On a bustling street in Longsing, Wang Chuer and Xiao Wu tore ahead with all their might. Dozens of pursuers were gaining ground. Wang Chuer glanced back and, seeing 7 spirit rings on the leader, scowled with a flash of indignation. "When was I ever treated like this in Stardo Great Forest?" she complained. "Maybe because you hit too hard?" Xiao Wu suggested, glancing backward. "You didn't just hit him. You threw him with an 8-section throw and knocked out some Duke's son." Wang Chuer and Xiao Wu exchanged looks. "What do we do now?" Wang Chuer asked. "We can't outrun them." "If worst comes to worst, we turn and fight," Xiao Wu said. "Besides, if we can't handle it, somebody will come to our rescue." Wang Chuer's hand slid to the reverse scale on her side. Nearby, on a 2-story platform, Di Tian sipped his tea and watched them go. He had no intention of intervening. If they'd sneaked out of Stardo Great Forest, they could expect a little rough treatment. Whether they'd be hurt, he didn't know, but Wang Chuer would survive. "Keep chasing, and I won't be polite," Wang Chuer called without looking back. "How could you be polite?" one of the pursuers snapped. "If you hurt our young master and we let you go, I won't be able to report back." The old man leading the pursuit quickened his pace. "I have backing, you know that?" Wang Chuer drew a black feather from her clothing and raised it high. "Yeshi is my sister. Keep chasing, and I'll go back and complain." She halted and pointed the feather at them. "Will that work?" she muttered to Xiao Wu. "I don't know," Xiao Wu whispered, "but there's no harm in trying. If it fails, we keep running." The old man slowed and called the others to halt, eyes narrowing. He'd never met Yeshi, but the name was famous. "How many Yeshis are there?" he barked. "I'm her sister, same blood," Wang Chuer lied boldly. "If you don't believe me, come up and try. You'll see who dies." The old man sized her up and finally focused on the black feather. "Pavilion Master Ye is supposed to have silver hair and blue eyes. You don't look anything like her. Are you trying to fool this old man?" Wang Chuer pushed her bluff further. "I'm her biological sister from a different mother and father. If you don't believe me, wait here. I'll go fetch proof." "If you've got guts, don't run. Stay right here. I know where your house is. You can't escape." Xiao Wu stood beside Wang Chuer, listening in stunned silence. Had she not known the truth, she might well have believed the claim. Chapter 332, My Sister Yeshi Often Kills People. The old man stood frozen, suspicion written across his face. From Wang Chuer's aura alone, he could tell she wasn't lying, but questions nagged at him. How had she deduced she had a biological younger sister with different parents? A graceful figure by the street, holding a bowl of tremella soup, turned and looked toward Wang Chuer's room. Ling Yuan's voice rang softly in Yeshi's ear. "I see her." Yeshi stirred the tremella soup with a careful hand, her cerulean eyes narrowing. She was surprised to see the 100,000-year-old spirit beast. No, the soft-bones demon rabbit Xiao Wu here. The girl beside Xiao Wu, however, was unfamiliar. "Young miss, shall I?" Yeshi waved her off. "No hurry. Let's observe first." She sipped the soup and watched. By Xiao Wu's situation, the rabbit should have stayed in the Stardo Great Forest until it fully transformed into human form. Why had it come out now? The girl beside Xiao Wu held a black feather, one Yeshi recognized. She used those black feathers to mark her identity when sending letters, and she'd only given out a few. Ye Shi mentally checked the list of recipients. At that moment, the evil eye Saint King, which had been lying near her feet, rose and fixed its gaze in a single direction. In the same direction, a pair of golden eyes watched them as well. Di Tian, cried a voice. Evil eye Saint King. Another echoed. Dai Tian's face shifted between solemnity and confusion. The evil eye Saint King showed caution. Though its power exceeded Di Tian's, it clearly didn't want to provoke him. After the dragon god's fall, it was forbidden for spirit beasts to become gods unless the dragon god returned. Still, there were divine beasts among spirit beasts. The evil eye Saint King might be a divine beast, but at most a second-level god, likely no match for whatever was recovering in the life lake. Worse, it sensed the aura of the co-lord of spirit beasts on Wang Chuer. The old man, who had been confronting Wang Chuer, weighed his options and decided he should verify Wang Chuer's identity before acting. He turned as if to leave, but not without a sharp parting remark. Old man, listen carefully. Wang Chuer drew in a breath and declared, I am Wang Chuer of the Di family, and my sister is Ye Shi. If you have anything to say, speak to Ye Shi. The old man's confusion deepened. Di family, a powerful cultivator from the Dai family on the continent with the surname Wang, and a sister surnamed Ye, his brows knit. Ye Shi stifled a laugh and coughed lightly at Wang Chuer's introduction. Wang Chuer? The murmurs started around the crowd. Is that the Wang Chuer she knows? The timing's odd. Ye Shi set the bowl down and scanned the area again, wary. If this truly was the imperial auspicious beast Wang Chuer, who was protecting her? Was there a vicious beast nearby? The matter of Wang Chuer using Ye Shi's name to incur debts seemed petty now. All right, I remember you. The old man's tone hardened. You wait, I will come to Frost Snow Pavilion to demand an explanation. Before he could move, a clear, lilting voice cut the air like an Oriel's song. No need for the future. Ye Shi looked up. Who are you? Wang Chuer held the black feather higher, voice light and casual. Are you here to cause trouble again? My sister Ye Shi often kills people. Xiao Wu at her side kept tugging Wang Chuer's sleeve and arm, desperately wanting to say that the woman in front of them was the true owner of the feather, but she couldn't get a word in. Ye Shi gave a small, bewildered smile. I am Ye Shi of Frost Snow Pavilion. Her mouth twitched. When did she often kill people? If she did want someone dead, she'd send her subordinates, not do it herself. Wang Chuer's face flushed with embarrassment. She had actually run into the original owner of the feather. She glared at Xiao Wu. Xiao Wu, why didn't you pull me back earlier? I did try, Xiao Wu said in a low voice, but I couldn't hold you. The old man's face darkened. He felt duped by these two girls. His aura surged, pressing down on Wang Chuer like a crushing weight. Enough. His command came out like a knife. A calm, dangerous tone answered from elsewhere. Everyone turned to the source. Wang Chuer's eyes brightened. Di Tian, this old man is bullying me. Go teach him a lesson. She darted behind Di Tian and pointed. He reached up and tapped her head lightly, then turned those majestic golden eyes on the old man. The man trembled, rooted to the spot, unable to move. Ling Yuan stepped forward and placed herself between Ye Shi and the old man, eyes serious. Ye Shi's expression darkened. For a moment, she considered using her spatial ability to spirit herself and Ling Yuan away, but she quickly abandoned the thought. Spatial techniques were powerful, but not always against someone like Di Tian, who, if memory served, possessed a dragon god claw. Against him, any spatial escape might simply be smashed apart. Di Tian glanced at the old man, then shifted his gaze toward Ye Shi, or rather, toward the evil eye Saint King. Their eyes met and held. No words were exchanged, but the looks were heavy with meaning. Ye Shi and the others watched in silence as a tense, quiet communication passed between Di Tian and the evil eye Saint King. Di Tian's eyes kept changing expression, the scene hanging on a knife edge. Chapter 333, The Lord Doesn't Like Her. After a long moment, Di Tian was the first to look away. The slight crease between his brows made it clear that his conversation with the evil eye Saint King had not gone well. He looked displeased. The evil eye Saint King, sprawled lazily, continued to lie at Ye Shi's feet. Ye Shi watched him for a moment, then turned her attention back to Di Tian. He reached out, tapped Wang Chuer, and without another word, turned to leave. Let's go. I'll take you away. I haven't had enough fun yet. I don't want to go back. Wang Chuer pouted, but she followed his footsteps nonetheless. Ditian said nothing. He plucked a feather from Wang Chuer's hand and flicked it toward Yeshi. The feather screamed through the air, grazed Ling Yuan's neck, tore through the table in front of Yeshi, and buried itself in the bluestone paving with such force that cracks spidered out across the ground. Ling Yuan felt a sting, touched her neck, and found blood on her fingertips. Horror filled her eyes as Ditian's back receded. Though a peak 96 Douluo, she felt utterly powerless to retaliate. "Ling Yuan, are you all right?" Yeshi asked, concern plain in her voice. She took out a handkerchief and gently dabbed at the cut on Ling Yuan's neck. They had been together since Yeshi left Spirit Hall. Ling Yuan had always been diligent in protecting her, and the two had grown close. Seeing her friend hurt made Yeshi quietly angry, but she kept it controlled. Ditian's strength was absolute. They had been lucky to walk away as they did. At that moment, survival mattered more than pride. The Evil Eye Saint King rose and watched the direction Ditian had gone. He thought, "You're being disrespectful," but he made no move. As long as Yeshi remained unharmed near him, he didn't care about the rest. It depended on his mood. "I'm fine, young miss, just a scratch," Ling Yuan said with a faint smile, wanting to ease Yeshi's worry. "Don't worry, Ling Yuan. I'll make sure this is repaid in due time," Yeshi murmured. She would remember today. If she grew stronger later, she would settle the score. For now, discretion and cultivation came first. Meanwhile, outside the city, Ditian, Wang Xiaowu left Longsing and walked through a dense forest. "What, you really don't want to go back to the Stardo Great Forest?" Ditian asked gently, watching the sulky Wang Chuer. I haven't had enough fun," she replied, mood low. "Then enjoy yourself in the human world with the little rabbit," Ditian said. He added solemnly, "Keep the master's inverse scale safe, and lay low while you're there. I won't be protecting you covertly anymore." "You mean I can still play in the human world?" Wang Chuer brightened. "I thought you'd send me straight back to the Stardo Great Forest." "If I sent you back, you'd just sneak out again," Ditian said evenly. "As long as you keep the master's inverse scale on you, you won't be in danger. But in the human world, stay away from that person from just now. The master once said she carries the aura of a god." "The master really dislikes that aura," he added with a gravity that made Wang Chuer nod earnestly. "I remember. Are you going back to the Stardew Great Forest now?" she asked. "Not for the moment." Ditian's eyes drifted toward the sea. "I'm going to meet a few old friends and stretch my limbs." Wang Chuer followed his glance, but only saw thick woods. "All right then. I'll leave now." She hugged his warning in her chest. Keep the master's inverse scale close and be more low-key in the human world. With that, Ditian's figure vanished in a few flashing motions. When he left, Wang Chuer and Xiao Wu exchanged looks. Wang Chuer headed for the next city, and Xiao Wu fell in beside her. "Are the feathers gone?" Wang Chuer asked as they walked. "Do you have any money left?" Xiao Wu fished around. "I don't want cabbage and radish every day," Wang Chuer grumbled. Xiao Wu produced what she had, 2 gold coins, 1 silver, and 7 bronze. Wang Chuer's face fell when she saw it. Their figures faded into the distance. Back in Longxing City, Yeshi glanced once more at the old man who had exchanged looks with Wang Chuer, then left the city with Ling Yuan and the shrunken, Evil Eye Saint King. She returned to her Frost Snow Pavilion branch with the firm resolve to cultivate harder. The stronger she became, the safer she'd be. 2 days later, Yeshi settled into intensive cultivation. The branch's day-to-day affairs were handled by Juzu King with the assistance of the 2 Vice Hall Masters, Fire Yan Leopard and Wind Bailong. If a problem surpassed them, it would be forwarded to Ling Yuan and Ghost Leopard, and only as a last resort to Yeshi. Life gradually stabilized, and the Frost Snow Pavilion branch established a solid foothold in the Starluo Empire. Out on the calm sea, Ditian moved at incredible speed toward the Demon Whale Sea area. There, he found the Deep-Sea Demon Whale King, a gem-colored behemoth over 200 meters long with 2 3-meter eyes, one of them blind. "Deep-Sea Demon Whale King," Ditian greeted, stopping in front of the whale. "Ditian, shouldn't you be sleeping in the Stardo Great Forest?" The whale rumbled through its remaining eye, voice muffled by the depths. "I've come to invite you to be co-lord of the spirit beasts," the Whale King offered, "and to stretch my limbs." Don sat down in midair. Not interested, he said simply. I prefer my freedom. The Whale King shook the water around him. Your 10th heavenly tribulation is approaching. You wouldn't actually believe you can overcome the 10th heavenly tribulation and become a god, would you? When the dragon god fell, it was said that unless the dragon god returns, spirit beasts cannot become gods. No spirit beast can survive the 10th heavenly tribulation. It is fatal. Daitian's voice remained calm. Chapter 334, The Opposite of Tiangang's Idea. Listening to Daitian, the deep-sea demon whale king regarded him for a long moment, then closed its eyes and said nothing. Fine, think it over carefully. But first, how about a little warm-up? Daitian's hand changed into a dragon claw and reached toward the demon whale king. Daitian hasn't had a good scrap in years. The demon whale king sank into the sea, and a towering pillar of water burst up from the ocean to meet the dragon claw. Their collision sent ripples through the air, raw power radiating outward. Though the demon whale king had greater cultivation and the home field advantage, Daitian still held a subtle edge. He dove into the demon whale sea area and engaged the beast within its own waters. For Daitian, this was the fun of a true fight. When he'd fought Tang Hao and the elders of the Clear Sky sect in the Stardew Great Forest, it hadn't been a fight so much as a massacre. On Sea God Island, Poseidon, the great priestess, stood in the water, watching the demon whale sea area in silence. Her expression was thoughtful, but she said nothing. What is it, great priestess? Xiaobai surfaced beside her. Is there movement again in the demon whale sea area? Xiaobai asked. Poseidon only nodded faintly and kept watching. Xiaobai didn't press the matter. She followed Poseidon's gaze instead. Senior Poseidon, Xiaobai. Shall we go take a look? Tianyao stepped up, appearing behind Xiaobai. Seeing Xiaobai in human form, a flash of disappointment crossed Tianyao's face. If Xiaobai were in shark form, Tianyao thought she might be able to ride her secretly. She still wanted to ride Xiaobai, but hadn't managed it yet. I'm not going, Xiaobai said immediately. I can't beat that big whale, she added, refusing flatly. The demon whale sea area wasn't somewhere to go on a whim. Even though she wanted to take that whale down, she knew she couldn't do it now. Tianyao's disappointed look made Xiaobai's meaning clear in an instant. This girl probably wants to ride me again, Xiaobai mused, her eyes flicking to and fro as she calculated. I remember the relationship between Ye Shi and her sister was a little strained, she continued. Maybe I should learn from that. Now she's the holder of the sea god's legacy, and I'm the sea god's mount. If I study up a bit, could I flip things, ride the holder instead? If she becomes the sea god, then I'll be able to ride her. Xiaobai's eyes brightened slightly as she studied Tianyao. Noticing the attention, Tianyao took 2 steps back. After all they'd been through together, Tianyao thought she knew Xiaobai well. Xiaobai looked serious now, but when she played pranks, she never repeated herself, especially with that fishtail of hers. Tianyao had felt that tail more times than she could count. With her help, Xiaobai could now make it trace a perfect parabola. Go back and finish your assessment, Poseidon said, stepping toward the demon whale sea area. Once it's done, you can temporarily leave Sea God Island and go back to the mainland. Just return for the next assessment. After Poseidon left, Tianyao and Xiaobai exchanged a glance. If I leave Sea God Island, will I be able to ride Xiaobai to the mainland? Tianyao asked, eyes shining at the thought. Xiaobai's eyes sparkled in response. A rebellious plan grew in her mind. Xiaobai, I'm going back to continue my assessment. Yan Yan and Ye Lingling are waiting for me. She turned and ran, but Xiaobai dived and shot past, splashing a wave in Tianyao's face. Humph, I'm not falling for the same trick 472 times, Tianyao huffed, smoothing down her clothes and trying to look composed. A fishtail breached and arced into the air in a perfect parabola. Now it's 473 times, Xiaobai teased before slipping back beneath the waves. Xiaobai! Tianyao stomped in mock annoyance, glared at the calm water, and headed to the assessment area. She vowed silently that if she did become a god, she would pretend to search for a mount to make Xiaobai jealous, then insist on riding her across the sea every day. Tianyao, Duguyan, and Ye Lingling had all grown quickly on Sea God Island. Duguyan and Ye Lingling had already reached the 5-ring Spirit King stage, and Tianyao herself had become a six-ring spirit emperor. At the legacy site, her gaze passed over Ye Lingling, and she caught a faint green pattern on Ye Lingling's forehead, a soothing, healing design that felt wonderfully comforting. It vanished in an instant, as if it had never been there. Did I just see things? Tianyao rubbed her eyes and looked again, but nothing remained. Maybe Xiaobai's slap was a bit heavy, she muttered, and prepared to continue the assessment. Out in the Demon Whale Sea area, Poseidon had gone no further than the outer perimeter, watching the battle from a distance. Where did this spirit beast come from? It's stronger than the deep-sea demon whale king, she murmured, frowning. Under her gaze, the demon whale king had already slipped into disadvantage. After a brief observation, Poseidon turned and returned to Sea God Island. She had no intention of intervening in the struggle between the demon whale king and this unknown beast. Let them fight it out, as long as it didn't threaten Sea God Island. As Poseidon departed, both the demon whale king and Diting and Dihian glanced briefly in her direction. The demon whale king knew Poseidon well. They could be called old rivals. But Dihian barely spared her a glance. He had other things on his mind. Chapter 335. I can't help myself either. More. Time passed. Nobody could say how long. The Demon Whale Sea area eventually grew quiet. Dihian flew out of the water and headed off in another direction. At the same time, the deep-sea Demon Whale King broke the surface as well. Dihian, the Demon Whale King called. You hit hard. I'll need a long time to recover, but that fight was worth it. He closed his eyes again. Though wounded, he was still the ruler beneath the waves, the deep-sea Demon Whale King. 4 months slipped by in silence. Late at night in the Frost Snow Pavilion's sub-temple, after 4 months of concentrated cultivation, Yeshi felt her spirit power brush the edge of the level 70 bottleneck. She was only a hair's breadth from breaking through. Quietly lying by Yeshi's door, the Evil Eye Saint King suddenly felt a majestic voice in his mind. Find a spirit ring for my legacy holder that meets or exceeds the age limit of a 6th ring spirit. If you cannot find one, you will have to take its place. The Evil Eye Saint King shivered and rose. Asura, may you be in good health, he murmured inwardly, only daring to say it in his mind. To avoid having to take that place himself, he raced through possible solutions. Yeshi's 6th spirit ring had come from an Ice Jade Emperor Scorpion. There might be beasts older than the Scorpion, but very few. The vicious beasts of the Stardew Great Forest were unlikely. He could not hope to defeat the co-dominators of the spirit beasts. The beasts of the far north were out. He had once seen the Ice Jade Emperor Scorpion's soul inside Yeshi's spirit sea. Preserving a soul required sacrifice, and given the Scorpion's ties to the Snow Empress, Yeshi might even know the Empress. Sea beasts were out of the question. Yeshi was in the Douluo Empire and would logically look to nearby great spirit beast forests, not to the ocean. One possibility remained. The Evil Eye Saint King vanished, then reappeared streaking across the night sky. As he passed the Stardew Great Forest, a dragon roar rolled out and shook the heavens. Dihian, he whispered. Is Dihian fighting again? Could there still be beasts there that match him? After his last mistake, he dared not enter the forest or use his divine sense. He hid in the shadows and watched. Half an hour later, a colossal spirit beast burst from the forest, nearly 300 meters long, a single giant eye ringed by huge tentacles. Dihian followed, blood staining his scales. He looked injured. At the forest's edge, Dihian paused and watched the fleeing beast. The Evil Eye Saint King's eyes lit up, so he didn't have to look far after all. Dihian had even managed to wound it. The vertical pupil on the Evil Eye Saint King's forehead flashed. He focused on the giant-eyed beast and struck, knocking it from the air. It crashed to earth and bellowed. The Saint King descended, his massive claws raining blows on the creature's eye. As fellow spirit beasts, don't blame me, he said as he beat it. I don't want to fight either, but I can't help myself. He worked at it with relish, a small catharsis after being humbled by the Asura god. In 20 minutes, he had it sufficiently subdued. The vertical pupil on his forehead flared again, preventing the beast's wounds from healing and sealing its ability to speak. I know you're furious and desperate, he told the creature, but don't be hasty. I'll hide you for now. When I need you, I won't forget you. He tapped its eye one last time, then carried the creature toward the maze's great canyon and sealed it deep within. The seal would keep it alive despite its grievous injuries and would hide its existence from others. Satisfied, he stepped back. Perfect, simply perfect, he murmured. The plan was simple. He would learn where Yeshi went to find a spirit ring, then secretly unveil the captive beast and shove it toward her so she would deliver the final blow. That would fulfill the Asura's demand without him having to sacrifice himself. He returned to Yeshi's door, and having confirmed she remained in meditation, settled down nearby. His gaze drifted to the maze's great canyon. With this big eye, he thought, I can avoid having to take its place. But what if there's a next time? There aren't many older than this eyeball. Maybe I should consider the big whale. His eyes gleamed. As the old human saying went, prepare for a rainy day. If another command comes, big whale, don't blame me. I really can't help myself. If I can't find one, I'll have to take its place. After a silent 3-second sigh, the evil eye Saint King closed his eyes. Inside the room, Yeshi forced the bottleneck. She felt it give way. A faint sound like breaking glass echoed in her mind. Her azure eyes opened, and she exhaled slowly. Level 70, she said, a smile brightening her face. Finally level 70. Once I add a spirit ring, I can go back to the Heavendu Empire and try to turn the tables. Chapter 336. The big eye fell in front of her. Yeshi calmed herself quickly and returned to the question of the 7th spirit ring. Her 6th ring was a vicious beast spirit ring with more than 200,000 years of cultivation. No matter what, her 7th ring could not be younger than that. The spirit eagle and ghost leopard she had with her were nowhere near enough to take down a vicious beast superior to the Ice Jade Emperor Scorpion. As for the Fire Yan leopard, Wind Bailong, and the others, they weren't an option. Hunting vicious beast rings wasn't something you could brute force with just a few spirit Douluo. If the gap in strength was too large, they'd only be sending themselves to their deaths. After thinking it over, Yeshi decided to return to Spirit Hall and gather more people. She got out of bed, went to the Spirit Eagle and Ghost Leopard, and had them prepare the carriage. She gave instructions about the branch hall's affairs, then slipped away from Frost Snow Pavilion's branch hall under cover of night. Once the carriage left Douluo City, it gradually increased its speed. Spirit Eagle and Ghost Leopard sat up front driving, while the miniature Evil Eye Saint King lay on the roof, facing the direction of the maze Grand Canyon. Yeshi sat inside, lost in thought. As the carriage sped along, the Evil Eye Saint King quietly slipped off the roof and disappeared without Spirit Eagle or Ghost Leopard noticing. The moon slipped across the sky, and the carriage entered the darkest hour, passing through a silent stretch of forest. Suddenly, there was a rush of air. Spirit Eagle and Ghost Leopard looked up and saw a huge object plummeting from midair. Ghost Leopard slammed on the brakes. Spirit Eagle leapt up, spun once in the air, and kicked toward the falling mass. There was a thunderous impact, and a cloud of dust burst up from the ground. What happened? Yeshi stepped out, brushing the dust away. Young miss? Ghost Leopard started, choosing his words carefully. A big eyeball fell from the sky. A what? Yeshi blinked and stared at the place where the dust had boiled up. A bird falling made sense. An eyeball did not. How big would an eyeball have to be to cause this kind of commotion? The dust thinned, and when she could see clearly, Yeshi's eyes widened in disbelief. It really was a giant eyeball, tentacles trailing from it, more than 300 meters across. From its appearance, she recognized it as a spirit beast, an evil eye tyrant. Judging by its size, it was at least 600,000 to 700,000 years old. Evil eye tyrant sovereign, Spirit Eagle cried. And it's badly wounded, practically dying, Ghost Leopard added. Yeshi's eyes glittered. When you needed a spirit ring, and a vicious beast renowned among vicious beasts crashed to the ground in front of you, already dying, all you had to do was finish it, and the ring and spirit bone would be yours. It felt like striking the lottery. The evil eye tyrant sovereign turned its enormous gaze toward Yeshi, and more specifically, toward the evil eye Saint King that had been on the carriage roof. It had been heading to the Stardew Great Forest to snatch something. It might not have been able to defeat Ditian outright, but it could have run. Instead, it had been struck from the sky by the evil eye Saint King. That was bad enough. Worse was the thought that a divine beast of spirit beasts would hand itself over to become a human spirit ring. What a betrayal. Its voice was sealed. It could not even cry out. Spirit eagle, ghost leopard, be on your guard, Yeshi warned. She drew the slaughter sword, preparing to finish it. The evil-eye tyrant sovereign's eyes shifted, and it prepared to use its last resort, self-destruction, to take one of them with it. But the moment it had that thought, it felt itself being restrained. Self-destruction was now impossible. Its gaze fixed on the evil-eye Saint King, and it saw cold mockery in the little creature's eyes, as if to say, "You can't blow yourself up in front of me." Yeshi closed the distance with the slaughter sword. Just as the blade was about to pierce the monarch, an invisible domain burst out from the evil-eye tyrant sovereign and linked to Yeshi. The force of it threw Spirit Eagle and Ghost Leopard, who stood closer to her backwards. "This is," Spirit Eagle gasped. "Sacrifice?" Ghost Leopard said, stunned. He had never seen anything like it. A huge wounded eyeball falling from the sky, Spirit Eagle going up to knock it, and then, just as their young miss was about to finish it, the thing actually sacrificing itself. The evil-eye tyrant sovereign's logic was simple. It couldn't escape. It couldn't self-destruct. If it was going to become a human spirit ring anyway, it might as well sacrifice itself to preserve its soul and see what was so special about this human that the evil-eye Saint King would go to such lengths for her. As the sacrifice continued, a spirit ring, golden with red highlights, separated from the evil-eye tyrant sovereign and fell onto Yeshi. She didn't fully understand what was happening, but a spirit ring landing on her meant she had to absorb it. She reached into her sea of spirit. Inside, the Ice Jade Emperor Scorpion rose from the ground and fixed its steely gaze on the soul body that entered the sea of spirit, the evil-eye tyrant sovereign. The evil-eye tyrant sovereign, now a soul body, in turn noticed the Ice Jade Emperor Scorpion. Surprise flickered across its huge eye. It hadn't expected another soul body to already be inside Yeshi's sea of spirit. Besides the soul body, there was also a long sword exuding a slaughterous aura, the Asura Demon Sword. The evil-eye tyrant sovereign moved straight to the center. Even as a soul body, it was still the evil emperor of the Fiend Forest. As the boss, it wanted the central position. "Hey, you can't go there," the Ice Jade Emperor Scorpion said, watching the direction the evil-eye tyrant sovereign was heading and warning it. Chapter 337. Are you convinced? Scram. From now on, the central area is mine. The evil-eye tyrant sovereign strode forward without a hint of hesitation. The Ice Jade Emperor Scorpion's eyes narrowed. The evil-eye tyrant sovereign was undoubtedly powerful, one of the three great kings of the far north, but it had never been spoken to that way. Still, the Ice Jade Emperor Scorpion held its ground and waited. The newcomer didn't know, but how could it not, that there was still one hidden in the center. The instant the evil-eye tyrant sovereign moved in, a flash of red light struck it and sent it flying. "If I don't show my strength, do you really think I, the evil emperor, am easy to bully?" a voice boomed. "Today I'll show you what it means to be the spirit beast with the strongest mental force." The evil-eye tyrant sovereign charged. The red light flared again, but this time it didn't send it tumbling. The light condensed into a human form, the Asura god. He flicked his wrists and punched. The first blow knocked the tyrant's soul body to the ground. The second, wrapped in crimson light, followed and struck, muffling the tyrant so it couldn't even cry out. The Asura god's fists left after images in the air and came down like a rain of blows, hammering the evil-eye tyrant sovereign. "You're arrogant, aren't you?" the Asura god taunted, "calling yourself this emperor at every turn. Do you surrender? I ask you, do you surrender? Not answering? So brave." As the barrage continued, the evil-eye tyrant sovereign's soul dimmed. The Ice Jade Emperor Scorpion clicked its tongue and watched, oddly relieved. After 5 full minutes of brutal pounding, the Asura god finally stopped and let the tyrant speak. "Have you surrendered?" he demanded. With a weary movement, the evil-eye tyrant sovereign answered, "I surrender." Its voice had lost all arrogance. "Since you sacrificed yourself, speak honestly. I am a law enforcement officer of the God realm. If you serve my legacy well, resurrection is not impossible." The Asura god put his hands behind his back and looked at the dimming soul of the evil-eye tyrant sovereign. The tyrant said nothing, but its enormous eyes betrayed hopelessness. Ever since it had left the fiend forest and come to this continent, it had met with nothing but setbacks. Driven out of the Stardew Great Forest by Dishin, beaten by the Evil Eye Saint King and reduced to becoming a spirit ring for another, and now, after giving up its life as a soul body, thrashed by the Asura god. If you captured that little kitty, the Asura god added, don't tell my legacy about it for now. At that, the Evil Eye Tyrant Sovereign slowly got to its feet, a bold thought forming. Sir, I have already become the 7th spirit ring of your legacy, but she will need more spirit rings later. There are only a few beasts on this continent comparable to me. I have a suggestion. For a later spirit ring, why not let the Evil Eye Saint King take its place? After all, it is a divine beast. The Asura god inclined his head in slight approval. Then his form gradually thinned and vanished. No sooner had he disappeared than the Evil Eye Tyrant Sovereign sensed another dangerous gaze. The Ice Jade Emperor Scorpion stalked over, and the tyrant's already dim soul grew even paler. Normally, even as a soul body, it would have outmatched the Scorpion, but it had just been brutally beaten by the Asura god. Its soul was too weak. Outside, after several sunrises and sunsets, Yeshi finally finished refining the Evil Eye Tyrant Sovereign's spirit ring. Her spirit power leapt from level 70 to level 74 Spirit Saint. 2 new spirit abilities bloomed. Spirit Avatar. When cast, all of her attributes double. In darkness, all attributes quadruple. Destruction Field. She releases a destructive field centered on herself that heightens her mental force and allows her to cast Mental Illusion, Mental Shockwave, Mental Paralysis Ray, and Light of Destruction within the area. Yeshi opened her azure eyes and felt the surge of power. She now believed she could contend with a titled Douluo. As she examined the Evil Eye Tyrant Sovereign Spirit Bone, a majestic voice echoed in her mind. Asura's 3rd trial completed, it intoned. Reward, spirit power increased by 1 level. All spirit ring lifespans increased by 3,000 years. Asura's 4th trial, revive your spirit to 12 wings. Completion time, 5 years. The trial's reward pushed Yeshi's spirit power from level 74 to level 75. Revive my spirit to 12 wings, Yeshi muttered. The first time I went dormant, I reached level 30 and advanced to 8 wings. The second time I reached level 60 and advanced to 10 wings. By that pattern, 12 wings should be at level 90. That means I'd need 15 levels in 5 years. That won't be easy. She considered the challenge, then rose. Lingyan and Ghost Leopard came over. Lingyan glanced at Yeshi's new spirit ring lineup, 2 purple, 3 black, 2 red, and couldn't help but comment on how lavish it looked. Young miss, are we returning to Spirit City now? Lingyan asked. No, Yeshi replied. Change course, back to Heaven Do City. She withdrew her spirit and stepped into the carriage. Sitting cross-legged, she sank her consciousness into her mental force. There were questions she wanted to ask the Evil Eye Tyrant Sovereign. Evil Eye Tyrant Sovereign, I have some questions, she called out mentally. A weak reply came through almost at once. What do you want to know? Ask. Yeshi ignored the frailty in the voice. How were you injured? How did you fall from midair? And why did you sacrifice yourself to me? Also, you shouldn't be from this continent, should you? Where do you normally live? The tyrant fell silent. It wasn't unwilling to answer so much as choosing its words carefully. The Asura god had explicitly forbidden mentioning the Evil Eye Saint King for now. It took a moment to organize its thoughts before beginning to speak. Chapter 338, One by One. After a long pause, the Evil Eye Tyrant Sovereign gathered his thoughts and began slowly. This is a complicated matter. I'll have to explain it to you slowly, one thing at a time. Yeshi adjusted her posture, half reclining in the carriage. I'm not in a hurry. Take your time. His voice echoed in her mind. As you said, the place I originally came from isn't on this continent. I come from the Fiend Forest on another continent. I'm the strongest there, the clan chief of the Evil Eye Tyrant clan. The Sun Moon Empire on that continent regards me as their imperial totem, so I also have dealings with the Holy Church in that empire. About 10 or 20 years ago, a few outsiders showed up on my continent. They claimed they came from this continent, but they were driven out. Here they're called evil soul masters, beings everyone wants to destroy. When the leader of the Holy Church learned this, he took an interest in your continent and sent a vice leader to investigate. But when the vice leader saw how formidable this continent's power was, he went into hiding with the local evil soul masters, waiting for the right moment. I got wind of this and came to your continent, heading to the Stardew Great Forest to seize something. I ran into Dtian there and couldn't match him. I was driven out. I did, however, injure Dtian badly. After being expelled, I planned to return to the Fiend Forest to recuperate. But then I suddenly saw your carriage. The tyrant's voice faltered, and then Yeshi pressed him. Do you believe in fate? His voice deepened. What I mean is, a flicker of surprise crossed Yeshi's face. When I saw your carriage, I had this vague feeling that I should sacrifice myself and become your spirit ring. So I tried to get down, but because of my injuries, I crashed. When I saw you coming at me with a sword, that vague feeling told me I was right. Honestly, I was badly hurt, but if we had truly fought, your two titled Douluo subordinates wouldn't have been my match. Still, I chose to follow that inner urge and become your spirit ring. He said it as if it were the simplest thing in the world. Yeshi stared. She couldn't verify the first part of his story, but she would never believe the rest. Spirit beasts did sometimes sacrifice themselves, but nothing so theatrical. I doubt that, she said. It's true. Didn't I voluntarily sacrifice myself to you? The tyrant sounded sincere, though his eyes kept flicking toward the spot where the Asura god had vanished. Whether anyone else believed him didn't matter. He did. Who was he? His evil emperor might not be invincible, but among powerhouses on both continents, those comparable to his evil emperor numbered no more than 10. The idea that he had been captured and coerced was impossible, at least as far as the two continents were concerned. Above them were other beings altogether. Even invincibility had a context. Lately, his evil emperor had even met two beings from above and gotten along well. Yeshi let the matter drop for the moment and focused on what mattered, the Holy Church and the hidden vice leader the tyrant had mentioned. She asked him in her mind, how strong is the Holy Church? How strong is the vice leader hiding here? And where is he? The Holy Church is quite powerful, he answered. In your human terms, the leader of the Holy Church is a level 99 limit Douluo. Above the leader is a Grand Elder leader, slightly stronger than the leader. Above him is the Holy Emperor. I've never seen him and don't know his strength. Below the leader are two vice leaders, 6 reverends, and 8 elders. The two vice leaders are around level 97 to 98. Everyone below them is weaker. As for where the vice leader on this continent is hiding, I don't know. We cooperate, but I don't pry into what they don't tell me. He answered with precision. Yeshi tapped her fingers on the carriage, the sound tapping out her thoughts. Her blue eyes darkened with concern. If the Evil Eye Tyrant's information was reliable, the Holy Church's overall strength rivaled Spirit Halls, and that was only one Holy Church. There was also the Sun Moon Empire to consider. A visible spear can be dodged. A hidden arrow is the real danger. A powerful vice leader hiding in the shadows was a serious problem. Lingyuan, Ghost Leopard, change course. We're returning to Spirit City. She needed to warn her grandfather and Aunt Dong so they could prepare. Lingyuan and Ghost Leopard, who were driving the carriage, didn't hesitate. They turned the carriage around and headed back towards Spirit City. Yeshi drew back the curtain and looked out into the night, a trace of worry flickering across her face. Meanwhile, in Spirit City's Angel Secret Realm, Qian Renshui sat cross-legged on the 9-tiered steps, undergoing her assessment. She had left Heaven-Do City not long after Yeshi and returned to Spirit City to continue. If not for the business in Heaven-Do Empire, she would have finished the second assessment long ago. When the second assessment is over, she whispered to herself, I hope the third one is more ordinary. Her eyes opened slowly. She glanced once at the angel statue before her, then closed her eyes again. Chapter 300 Angel's Third Trial, Battle of the Phantoms. Accompanying the specks of light on the 9-tiered stair, the angel god's noble voice reverberated through the angel secret realm. Legacy bearer Qian Renshui, having completed the second trial, receives the following rewards. 2,000 years added to your spirit ring lifespan, spirit power rank increased by 1 level, 10% angel god intimacy, and 5% mokidu with Yeshi. Angel God's Third Trial, Battle of the Phantoms. The legacy bearer must defeat two phantoms possessing the same strength as herself and her companion. As soon as the proclamation fell, a giant golden circular platform materialized before Qian Renshui. 2,000 pure white feathers drifted down and formed two faint phantoms. One was Qian Renshui herself, the other was Ye Shi. 1, 2, 3, 6, 7. Whispers rose among the onlookers. When Xi'er left the Heaven Do Empire, didn't she have 6 spirit rings? How is it 7 now? The same strength as oneself? Has Xi'er already reached Spirit Saint at rank 7? Qian Renshui stared at the phantom's rings, her gaze fixed on Ye Shi's 7th ring. Spirit power reaching Spirit Saint she could accept, but the ring itself was strange. A normal 100,000-year spirit ring shouldn't look like that. This one was primarily gold, with red as a secondary hue. Should I try it first? She thought, and stepped onto the circular platform. Less than 5 minutes later, she stepped down again. Let's wait until Xi'er comes back, she murmured, helplessness in her eyes. I can't beat them alone. She had given it a quick test. Her own phantom mirrored her perfectly. Every move, every nuance. Alone, she could handle a copy of herself. But the other phantom was Ye Shi. The two phantoms' swords darted through the air with blinding speed. There were attacks of alternating attributes, strikes that ignored spirit ability defense and locked on, and repeated mental assaults. Some skills even allowed the opponent to recover when damaged if their amplification was activated. Worst of all was the way space manipulation was used. Imagine your spirit ability nearly landing, only for the enemy to slip through space and avoid the damage. It was maddening. Resigned, Qian Renshui left the Angel's secret realm and went straight back to her chambers. She had no intention of attempting the third trial until Ye Shi returned. In truth, she had thought the trial might be simple, but its difficulty had skyrocketed. Sitting by her window, Qian Renshui counted the days since Ye Shi's departure, her eyes full of longing. It's been so long. Xi'er, when will you return? She rested her chin on her hand and stared toward the Douluo Empire. Meanwhile, Ye Shi, half reclining in the carriage, sneezed for no apparent reason. What's this? She murmured, a trace of curiosity in her bright eyes, as if some invisible tug pointed her toward a direction. After several cycles of sunrise and sunset, the carriage Ye Shi rode in finally passed beyond the Douluo Empire's border and headed for the junction between the two great empires. After another day on the road, it slowed near Spirit City. Greetings, High Priest. Young Lord, greetings, Ling Yuan and the ghost leopard called softly from outside. Ye Shi pulled back the carriage curtain and found Qian Renshui standing there. Sister, Grandpa, what are you doing here? Qian Renshui smiled. I came back for the assessment. I finished the second trial a while ago and had nothing to do today. Grandpa and I just returned from paying respects to my father. Qian Renshui reached for the carriage door and climbed in. Grandpa, come on up. We'll take the carriage back. No need, Qian Daoliu replied, waving off the offer. I'll walk. He signaled Ling Yuan and the ghost leopard to continue on. As the carriage rolled away, Qian Daoliu watched it go with a gentle smile. Inside, Qian Renshui slipped an arm around Ye Shi's waist. Xi'er, did your spirit power break through to rank 70? She asked quietly, leaning close. How did you know? Ye Shi asked. I noticed your 7th ring, Qian Renshui said. Ye Shi explained, in detail, how she'd obtained that 7th ring. When her story ended, Qian Renshui looked at her with an expression that clearly said, Are you teasing me? Do you think I'm stupid? Ye Shi asked, shaking her head decisively. It really happened. Ling Yuan and the ghost leopard can vouch for me. Seeing the sincerity in Ye Shi's eyes, Qian Renshui finally chose to believe her. Then she grew serious. I have important news since I returned. Ye Shi's face hardened. So do I. After exchanging looks, Ye Shi spoke first. She described threats involving the Sun Moon Empire and the Holy Church. As Ye Shi finished, Qian Renshui's features darkened. This is no joke, Qian Renshui said earnestly. Originally, I planned to go straight back to Heaven Do City, but after hearing this, I changed course and returned to Spirit City. When we get back to Spirit Hall, we must call a supreme meeting and discuss it. Ye Shi nodded gravely. Agreed. What's the important thing you mentioned? It's about my 3rd assessment, Enchua admitted, her fingers tightening on Ye Shi's waist. But this situation needs to be handled first. Ye Shi drew closer into her embrace, silent and supportive. Before long, the carriage entered Spirit City and stopped before Spirit Hall. Ye Shi and Qian Renshui left the carriage and headed straight to Supreme Pontiff Bibi Dong's study. After laying everything out, they went to the Hall of Offerings. Bibi Dong ordered all the elders of the Elder Palace to gather there to discuss the matter. When Qian Daoliu returned to Spirit Hall, he found the atmosphere unusually heavy. He didn't linger on it outwardly, though. Hands clasped behind his back, he walked toward the Hall of Offerings with the calm steps of a man strolling through a garden. Chapter 340. No Need to Worry. When Qian Daoliu entered the main hall of the Hall of Offerings, he took in the sight of the elders and priests seated on both sides, with Qian Renshui, Bibi Dong, and Ye Shi at the very front. Surprise flickered across his face for a moment before he concluded that something major must have occurred. He sat in his seat and turned his gaze to Ye Shi, who had just returned. "Shier, has something happened?" Qian Daoliu's voice was calm. As High Priest of the Spirit Hall, he had long been unshaken even by the worst crises. Ye Shi swept her eyes across those present and then recounted in detail everything about the Sun Moon Empire and the Holy Church. When she finished, a heavy silence fell over the vast hall. The elders and priests bowed their heads in thought. Only Qian Daoliu and Bibi Dong kept their faces steady. "This is interesting," Qian Daoliu said, his voice carrying through the quiet. "But there's no need to worry too much. That may be, but we still need to root out whoever is hiding in the dark," he added. Bibi Dong produced a map and laid it out. Qing Luan rose and walked to it, scanning the surface slowly. "Although the Spirit Hall claims jurisdiction over the entire continent, there are places we've never set foot in," she said. "For example, Sea God Island, Slaughter City, and the far north. It's impossible for evil soul masters to be hiding on Sea God Island. Slaughter City is now under Shier. Unless the city is destroyed, the evil soul masters there can't get out. That leaves the unclaimed reaches of the far north as the most likely hiding place. The climate there is harsh. Ordinary armies can't be stationed there for long, so it's ideal for concealment." Qingluan pointed at the far north. All eyes followed her finger. "We should allocate some resources to the far north. Ordinary armies can't stay there, but our Spirit Master legions can. The most remote city in those regions is Snowy Domain City, which belongs to Shier. Its geography isn't ideal for a permanent garrison, but the approach to Snowy Domain City is. If we build a temporary pass there and station a Spirit Master Legion of 5,000, we can greatly hinder any attempts by evil soul masters to enter the continent from the north. We only need to hold it for a few years, until the Young Lord and Shier complete their plan for the Heaven Do Empire and topple the Star Luo Empire. By then, all spirits will belong to the Spirit Hall. Once our internal affairs are settled, we can focus on the evil soul masters. If they cross the sea to another continent, we can pursue them there as well. That other continent may one day belong to the Spirit Hall too." Qingluan spoke quietly and clearly. Qian Daoliu nodded in agreement. "I think that's wise. However, a Spirit Master Legion alone might not be enough," Bibi Dong said. "Shier mentioned that a vice leader from the opposing side is hidden in the dark. An ordinary legion might have trouble stopping someone of that caliber." Bibi Dong clasped her hands together and looked across the assembly with measured calm. "I will go. I've stayed in the Hall of Offerings for too long. I'd like to go out and do something." Qingluan met Qian Daoliu's eyes and volunteered too. Qian Daoliu considered and then granted the command. "Qingluan, you will take the Spirit Master Legion on this mission." Turning to Qian Renshui and Ye Shi, he continued, "Shuer, Shier, you already have enough on your plates with your own assessments and the affairs of the Heaven Do Empire. This can be handled by us. You two should focus on those matters." His voice softened. In truth, he never feared mere evil soul masters. The first angel god of the Spirit Hall had made their name suppressing evil soul masters. Dealing with them was the hall's specialty. Given enough time, and once his two granddaughters ascended, what were merely evil soul masters to them? Qian Renshui and Ye Shi exchanged glances. Just as they moved to speak, Qian Daoliu waved them off gently. "Shier has just returned and has been traveling tirelessly. You should both go rest. It's only a small matter of evil soul masters, nothing major." Persuaded by Qian Daoliu's calm assurance, Qian Renshui paused, then rose and guided Yeshi back toward their rooms. As they left, the discussion in the Hall of Offerings continued without them. Later, in an antique-style chamber, Qian Renshui and Yeshi lay down on a soft, comfortable bed. "Sheer, since Grandpa said so, there's no need for us to worry," Qian Renshui murmured, brushing Yeshi's cheek. Yeshi's skin was smooth as a shell, soft beneath her fingertips. "He and the others will manage it." That's true," Yeshi replied. After a moment, Qian Renshui brought in a plate of pastries and patted Yeshi. "Eat something and get a good night's rest. Tomorrow we'll try my third assessment." "What's your third assessment?" Yeshi asked, curious as she accepted a pastry. Qian Renshui's expression turned serious. "Two phantoms, essentially phantoms of the two of us. Tomorrow we'll face our own phantoms. We'll only test it lightly at first." She fed Yeshi another pastry, and Yeshi nodded, only half understanding but trusting Qian Renshui. The repeated gentle ministrations and the warmth of the room relaxed her. Soon she had eaten until she felt full. After they turned out the lights, Yeshi lay back and drifted quickly into sleep.